Okay. As you know that we are continuing with Mother's Day. That last day uh, we told. Last day where we were discussing page number 49. If you have the book, just open page number 49. Here, the last day we discussed that, as I told, you should know that as Annie Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald, they have interchanged their soul, and Mrs. Fitzgerald was giving the rough treatment to the family members of Annie Pearson, to her daughter, son, and husband. Now, actually, Mrs. Pearson, original Pearson, she had come to her house to see that what type of treatment her family members were receiving from Mrs. Fitzgerald. But Mrs. Pearson was looking like Fitzgerald because they have interchanged their soul. So Mrs. Fitzgerald came, and last day we discussed that what actually George Pearson told her and all this. Now at this, when in front of Mrs. Pearson, in front of original Mrs. Pearson, here Mrs. Fitzgerald also was insulting her husband, and at this Mrs. Actually Fitzgerald wanted to tell here last thing that rather bold, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Now actually Mrs. Fitzgerald asked her daughter, Mrs. Fitzgerald means original Pearson, she had asked her daughter Doris Pearson that why she had cancelled her plan of going out with Charlie Spence. And at this the daughter told that her mother had insulted her. Not only that, her mother had insulted actually her boyfriend as well, and that is the reason that he had cancelled. She has cancelled the plan. Now at this, the real mother told Mrs. Fitzgerald that no, you should not tell this. At this, Mrs. Fitzgerald, though original Mrs. Fitzgerald, though she was looking like Pearson, she told to actually Fitzgerald that you manage yours. I will manage my family. You manage yours. We know that this is not her family. It was actually Pearson's family. She was just managing. She was treating harshly with the other family members so that they will give the regard and respect to their mother and wife. But really, actually, the son, daughter, and the husband, they did not know about this exchange of soul. Now, when Mrs. Fitzgerald told these, actually, apparently she was original Mrs. Fitzgerald. Apparently, she was Pearson. So when Pearson told this to Fitzgerald that I am managing my family members, you manage yours. At this, the husband who was standing by that side, the husband told George. George told grimly. Grimly means getting serious. Tricking her off now. Are you, Annie? Now, we should not forget that in front of the outsider, in front of Mrs. Fitzgerald, the wife taught what was courtesy, how her husband should behave when other members or other friend or visitors would come next time to visit them. So the husband felt very much insulted because the husband has been told all this in front of the visitor, in front of a neighbor. Now, when Annie Pearson told this to the neighbor that I am managing my family, you manage yours, at this the husband told, now you are you are ticking her off. Ticking means you are making angry. Now few minutes back you just taught me that how to behave with, and now you yourself actually are behaving in such a way. The husband pointed out this. Now at this, Mrs. Pearson here even more grimly, they are waiting for you at the club, George. Don't forget, and don't you start crying again, Doris. Now here the wife again insulted the husband, and the wife reminded the husband that they are waiting at the club. The wife told the husband that the people at the club, they make fun of him and they call him Pompey Pearson, and actually George Pearson was a standing jokes for them. That the wife had already told him. Now again the wife told him that you must not wait here, you must go to their club because they are all waiting for you. You go there. Now, here Fitzgerald told, and not only that, the mother also forbade Doris to cry. At this, Fitzgerald told, though Fitzgerald means original Pearson, getting up with sudden decision. That's enough, quite enough. Mrs. Fitzgerald told, quite enough means the real mother of Doris and Doris and Cyril. She actually could not tolerate it anymore, and she stood up and told, that's enough. Now George and Doris stare at bewildered. And George and Doris, the father and daughter, they were looking at each other because why Fitzgerald was telling like this. To George and Doris, the real mother and the real wife, though she was looking like Fitzgerald, we know the reason behind it. Actually, they were now talking. They were now actually talking about what they are telling. Now listen, you two. I want to have a private talk with Mrs. Fritz. She comes herself hastily. She corrects herself hastily with Mrs. Pearson. So I will be obliged if you will leave us alone for a few minutes. Now, here, Mrs. Pearson, real Mrs. Pearson, though she was looking like Fitzgerald, as I told, she told her husband and her daughter that you should leave this room because I am having a private talk with Mrs. Fritz. Then she corrected with Mrs. Pearson. Actually, to whom she wanted to talk, originally she was Mrs. Fitzgerald, but she was looking like Pearson because we know that they have interchanged their soul. Now, she told, she had forgotten that she had to play the role of Mrs. Fitzgerald, but she told her husband and daughter that I have a perfect talk with Mrs. Fritz. Then she corrected herself that she corrected herself with Mrs. Pearson because she was looking like Fitzgerald. She was Fitzgerald. So how it would be possible that Fitzgerald would have a private talk with Mrs. Fitzgerald? So she has controlled herself, she has corrected herself and then told that I am having a private talk with Mrs. Pearson. So I'll be obliged if you will leave us alone for a few minutes. And she told, she begged, she implored her husband and daughter that it would be better if you leave us for a few minutes. Go on, please. I promise you that you wouldn't regret it. Regret means feeling sorry. And the mother, the real mother and the real wife told them that I am telling you, I am promising you, I am ensuring you that as you are leaving this room, you must not feel sorry afterwards. You will not regret for this. I promise you that you wouldn't regret. There is something here that only I can deal with. And Mrs. Pearson told, original Pearson, though she was looking like Fitzgerald, original Pearson told that there is something that only I can deal with. That Mrs. Fitzgerald told this to George Pearson and Doris Pearson. Now George, rising, George was sitting there, he stood up. I'm glad somebody can, cause I can't. The husband told, the husband was very much disappointed with the wife's behavior, and the husband told, okay, that's good that anybody could do that because I could not do that, means I could not control my wife. That's good. Now come on, Doris. Now the father called the daughter, and now both father and daughter, they exit from that room. Here it is, George and Doris exit left. As they go, Mrs. Fitzgerald moves to left of the small table and sits. She eagerly beckons Mrs. Pearson to do the same thing. Beckons means a gesture of hand or head, a gesture of hand or head, So Mrs. Fitzgerald came and told Mrs. Pearson that to do the same thing. Means as they have exchanged their soul, Mrs. Fitzgerald was telling to Pearson that you must exchange it twice so that we could come to the original soul. Now we should read it such a way that here Mrs. Pearson was imploring or requesting to Mrs. Fitzgerald to change their soul again, as actually she wanted to come to her original soul, original self. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, here see Mrs. Fitzgerald is addressing to Mrs. Fitzgerald because nobody was there around, so they could talk freely. And here Mrs. Fitzgerald, though she was Mrs. Fitzgerald, but she was actually Mrs. Pearson, as we the readers and these two women knew it. So Mrs. Fitzgerald told, Mrs. Fitzgerald, we must change back now. We really must. Now she was telling to actually original Fitzgerald that we must change ourselves. We must come to our original self. Now Pearson means actual Fitzgerald. See, rising. Why? Fitzgerald was enjoying the treatment as she was giving to the family members. He was enjoying it, and Fitzgerald asked this to Pearson. Why? Now Fitzgerald, Because this has gone far enough. I can see they are all miserable and I can't bear it all. Now, here the real mother told, yes, you must go, you must change to our original self because I can't tolerate it anymore. I can see that my son, my daughter, my husband, they are all in miserable condition. They are in a pitiful condition. The condition is too much, so I can't bear it. I can't tolerate it anymore. Now, Mrs. Pearson, means actual Fitzgerald, she told, a bit more of the same would do them good, making a great difference already. Now, she moves to right of the table and sits. Now, Pearson told, a bit more of the same. A bit more of the same means we know that Mrs. Fitzgerald had been behaving in a rough way, and intentionally she had been doing this because her aim was to make them understand that how they should give honor to their mother, and for George Pearson that how he should give honor to his husband also. Now, a bit more of the same would do them good, and that Mrs. Fitzgerald told, that a bit more of the same means that harsh treatment she was referring to, making a great difference already. And she told, no, actually already there should be a great difference, because the way I have treated with your husband, your son, your daughter, already they are very much scared of me. Already a great difference had started in their career. Now, she moves to right of the table and sits, and now she sat there. Now, Pearson, no, I can't stand any more of it. I really can't. Now, here Mrs. Fitzgerald means real Pearson. She told, I can't stand any more of it. I really can't. We must change back. Hurry up, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now, she implored Mrs. Fitzgerald that please, just change back, please. I really can't. We must change back. Hurry up, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now, Pearson, well, if you insist. Now, Fitzgerald told, original Fitzgerald told, if you insist. Now, Fitzgerald, yes, I do. Please, please. Now, Mrs. Pearson was imploring, requesting, pleading, appealing to Mrs. Fitzgerald to change back and come to their original self. Now, she stretches her hands across the table. Eagerly, Mrs. Pearson takes them. Now, Mrs. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Pearson had stretched her hand, and Mrs. Fitzgerald had hold this hand, and they were doing the same thing as they had done the same when they were actually changing their soul. So they were just maintaining that same formality as they had done it earlier. Now, Mrs. Pearson means original Fitzgerald. She told, quiet now, relax. She was telling to Pearson, quiet now, relax. Now, Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald stare at each other, muttering, Aristatadam, Aristatalam, Aristatalam Dambona. The same mantra, Aristatalam, 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 Aristatalam Dambona. They were holding each other's hand, and Fitzgerald chanted this mantra to change back to their original self. They carry out the same action as before. As before means they perform the same action when they, for the first time, they were exchanging their soul. Here also, now they were exchanging it again. They were coming back to their original self, and now they are doing the same. They are doing the same. Now, as it is stated, now they carry out the same as before, going lax. Lax means as if senseless. After chanting this mantra, both of them got senseless. Why not? Because the soul were coming out of them, and you might, as I told, from it, you might also try if you want to really change. You people may try if you really want to change your soul with others with this mantra. Who knows what would happen? Whatever. It's a joke apart. Whatever. Now, they carry out the same action, going lax and then coming to life. They actually got senseless as if, and they came back to their life again. But this time, of course, they became their proper personalities. But now, this time, they became to their proper personalities. Means Mrs. Fitzgerald became Mrs. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Pearson became Mrs. Pearson. Now, Fitzgerald, well, I enjoyed that, Fitzgerald told, because she had given a harsh treatment to Doris, Cyril, and George. Now, Pearson is telling, I didn't. Pearson told, I didn't. Means being Fitzgerald, I did not enjoy. Now, Fitzgerald is telling, well, you ought to have done. Now, listen, Now Fitzgerald told, you should enjoy this, being because you led my life, you should enjoy this. Mrs. Pearson, don't go soft on them again, else it will all have been wasted. Now Fitzgerald here warned Mrs. Pearson that with the Hertz treatment, I had given the Hertz treatment that I had given to them, already it brought a change in them. And Fitzgerald warned Pearson that you must not be very soft with them, because if you become very soft as you were earlier, then it would be the same situation. I cannot save you then. Here it has been stated that them again, else it all have been wasted. Now Mrs. Pearson, I will try not to, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now Mrs. Pearson told, actually Mrs. Pearson was not so much, not so much assured, she was not sure that really he could control this strictness. That is why she told that I will try not to, Mrs. Fitzgerald, she told, I will try not to be soft with them. Now Fitzgerald, they have not had as long as I had liked to have given them. They have not had as long as I would like to have given them. Means Fitzgerald told they have not got that kind of behavior, that kind of Hertz treatment that I really wanted to give them. I really wanted to give them more. But as Mrs. Fitzgerald, as Mrs. Pearson implored her, so he had to change back again. That is why she told that they have not had as long as I would like to have given them. Although, another hour or two's rough treatment might have made it certain. And Fitzgerald told, if another hour or two rough treatment means if I get another 1 hour or 2 hours, and if I give that rough treatment to them, then it would be better for them. Then it would be totally settled. Now, Mrs. Pearson, I'm sure they will do better now, though I don't know how I am going to explain. Now, Pearson, she was so soft-minded, soft-hearted, kind-hearted. She could not understand. Now, she told that I'm sure they will do better now, means they will behave in a better way, they would give respect to me, though I don't know how I am going to explain. And she was telling to Fitzgerald that I don't know that how I am going to explain all this to them. Now, can you imagine if their Mrs. Pearson had told everything, that yes, it has been, had told everything that no, you should not, or what we have done, you must not do it, then it would be very bad matter for them, and they would immediately would give them more and more disrespect to them, whatever. But here Mrs. Fitzgerald told, severely, means getting more serious, don't you start any explaining or apologizing, or you will done for, or you are done for. Here Fitzgerald warned Pearson, what you are telling? Will you explain them what has happened? Now she warned Mrs. Pearson, don't go or don't start any explaining or apologizing. If you do that, then you are done for. You are done for means you are finished. If you once tell to your husband, to your daughter and son, that the rough treatment that you had given to them, it was not actually you, it was somebody else, then they would definitely, they would not, give you any respect, and the matter would worse condition. You could never get back your position in the society, in the family. So, actually here Fitzgerald warned that don't you start any explaining or apologizing, or you are done for means you are finished. Now Mrs. Pearson with spirit, it's all right for you, Mrs. Fitzgerald, after all they are not your husband and children. Now see, this is an ungrateful comment from Mrs. Pearson, that Mrs. Fitzgerald had done so much for her. Now Mrs. Pearson is telling that it's all right for you. Mrs. Pearson is telling to Fitzgerald, yes, you cannot understand, it's all right for you. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, after all they are not your husband and children, they are not your husband and children, so you could not understand that how tough it is to tolerate when somebody is getting so much insult and all this. Promit, have you understood? Okay, so up to this, today it's time up. So next day, I hope we will be able to complete it. Okay, thank you, and thank you very much for being with me. Thank you.